Thanks for your work on Kierkegaard. I thought I would just put up this little video to talk about Kierkegaard a little bit. One of the books that I've recently read is a very new publication here from Hendrickson Publication by Peter Vardy on Kierkegaard. It's a brief introduction to him. One of the other sources from which you can take quite a lot of information is The History of Western Philosophy by Bertrand Russell. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that book, but it's one of my favorites, and so much so that I bought the expensive version that comes from the Folio Society. And he delves a lot into Kierkegaard's ideas as well. You mentioned several things in the discussion board, and I wanted to highlight a few things. Kierkegaard was influenced by his brief stay in Germany as a graduate student by Hegel. And if you are familiar with Hegel, great. If not, don't worry too much about him, except to understand this about Hegel. Hegel had the experience of watching Napoleon's armies sort of sweep through Europe several times and seeing massive amounts of people being involved in great social upheavals, and he wondered if the greater flow of history therefore didn't depend so much on individuals, but all these people who were doing so many things. Of course, Kierkegaard really hated that. And one of the things that I noticed that was picked up upon in the discussion board was that very much in favor of the individual and not the collective. He did have a mistrust of organized religion, of government, of almost anything that tended to strip away individuality. He didn't distrust Christianity as much as he distrusted the institutional church, which was often in Kierkegaard's time, and certainly was in Denmark, an instrument of the state, part of the governmental structure. He wanted to be an individual so much that he even wanted on his tombstone as the only epitaph, the individual. He didn't want anything more than that. So understanding Kierkegaard, it helps to understand that as part of his background. He also believed very much in individual responsibility, very much in individual looking towards what the pure religion was. That's one of the reasons why he mistrusted organized religion, because he thought people turned it into a habit and didn't even think about it. I remember there was a wonderful story that I read while I was in seminary many years ago about him talking about someone who was so in awe of the majesty of God, of the power of God, of the love and grace of God, that she didn't think that she could do a good enough job in her needlepoint and in her fine work for the altar linen, because how could anything we could put together, however nice, be an adequate offering or an adequate thing to present before God? Kierkegaard was very much in that way. He wanted his life to be something that was a pure offering to God, and he didn't have a lot of patience for people who didn't hold to that position as well. Kierkegaard is a funny person to study. I do really enjoy studying him because he seemed to have more of a sense of humor than we sometimes give him credit for. He wrote a lot of different works under a lot of different names, and he would often argue with himself. If someone wasn't arguing with him, he'd write another book under another name and say, ta-da, here it is, here's something new. So I appreciate your work on Kierkegaard, and I hope that you'll keep him in mind as we go on to the next existentialist.